Meet Ben. He walks into the store and sees two white t-shirts folded on the table. They are sewn from exactly the same cotton in the same factory and serve the same function. One of them has a branded tag on it and it costs $20. The other one has a little red logo on it and it costs $800. Ben thinks, I'm a monkey, I'm smart, I'll take the one that's cheaper. But then he looks around. Others buy expensive ones. Ben begins to doubt. Maybe I don't understand something? Maybe an expensive t-shirt makes them happier. The law of demand states that as the price of a product increases, demand for it should decrease. This is the foundation of the foundations of capitalism. We strive for value and efficiency. But we all know that this is not the case in the real world. An $800 t-shirt sells out instantly. People stop for the night right on the sidewalk just to pay the rent for it. If the company had lowered the price to $40, no one would need it anymore. The demand exists precisely because the price is too high. Ben spends too much time analyzing why we make financial decisions that ruin our future. If you are one of those who have ever experienced a strange, irresistible urge to buy something that you couldn't afford, just to prove that you can, be sure to click on the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up, because today, Ben is going to analyze the psychology of status. Ben doesn't understand how luxury brands use our insecurities about bank accounts as weapons, and why the only way to truly get rich is to stop trying to look like one. Ben thought of Thorstein, the man who hated the rich so much that he wrote a book about their behavior, and how his century-old theory explains everything from your neighbor's cheapest car to the queue for a Gucci bag. In order for Ben to understand why we squander our wealth in order to look rich, he returned to 1899 and met with a famous economist named Thorstein. He looked at the society around him, at the era of the Vanderbilt and Rockefeller guilds, and realized that the standard economic models were wrong. Economists believed that people strive to maximize utility. That is, we buy things because they are useful. People bought silver spoons that were too hard to eat, and corsets that made it impossible to breathe. He realized that that wasn't the point. The point was waste. He coined the term conspicuous consumption. The basic idea is that in a stratified society, the most effective way to prove your high status is to publicly waste resources. If Ben can afford to buy a watch that shows the time no better than a Casio for $20, but costs the same as a Toyota Prius, Ben sends a very powerful signal to his tribe. Ben thinks, I have so many resources that I can afford to burn this pile of money and still survive. This leads to the main mechanism of the Veblen Paradox. For some products, the price is a distinguishing feature. In a regular market, price is a barrier. This is the pain you have to endure to purchase the product. But in today's market, the price is the product itself. If Rolex had suddenly decided to increase efficiency and sell their watches for $300, which is closer to the cost of materials, they would not have sold more watches. They would have gone out of business. The moment a Rolex watch becomes available to an assistant manager at a grocery store, it loses all its usefulness as a status indicator for the CEO. The value is not in the mechanisms. The value lies in exclusion. Ben strives to purchase these goods not because they are good, but because they are difficult to get. This creates an inverted demand curve, where an increase in price actually increases the demand for the product, because the higher price creates a stronger barrier, which creates a more exclusive club, which makes the signal more valuable. This is an irrational feedback loop that raises prices to astronomical levels, completely divorced from reality. But therein lies the tragedy of the paradox. The middle class finds itself embroiled in a game in which it is mathematically guaranteed to lose. The wealthy elite, the true leisure class that Vine wrote about, buys these goods with their excess capital. When a billionaire buys a car worth $300,000, it means a rounding error of his net worth. This does not affect his ability to increase his fortune, but the middle class looks up to the elite and imitates their behavior to show that they are successful too. This is what is called a money competition. Ben buys a luxury car, a designer handbag, and the latest iPhone not because he can afford it, but because he's afraid to look like he can't. Ben creates the appearance of wealth, destroying the real mechanism for obtaining it. He swaps his main assets, his shares, his 500,000 contributions for depreciating liabilities, just to make it clear to strangers that everything is fine with you. This biological drive has its roots deep in our evolutionary history. We are social primates, and for millions of years, status has been equated with survival. The peacock grows a massive, bulky, multicolored tail, which makes flight difficult and easier for predators to catch. Why? Because it's a signal to female pissing chickens. Look at me. I am so genetically adapted, so strong and healthy that I can survive, even despite this huge disadvantage. Conspicuous consumption is the human equivalent of a peacock's tail. Ben buys a huge house with a heated swimming pool, which he never uses, and a luxury car with a high level of maintenance, which breaks down every 5 months to demonstrate our physical fitness to the whole tribe, endangers his financial survival in order to prove that he is surviving. But in today's world, this instinct has been hijacked by marketing departments that understand your brain better than you do. They know that if they create artificial scarcity, as Eracy does with the Birkin bag, forcing you to beg and buy other goods just to get permission to spend $10,000, they can provoke this primary concern about status. The danger of the Veblen Paradox is that the goalpost is constantly moving. Veblen described the treadmill of consumption. As soon as the middle class increases their budget to buy an entry-level luxury item, a Louis Vuitton bag or a Mercedes C-Class, the elite move on to something more expensive and exclusive to stand out. A logo that used to symbolize wealth becomes plain or tasteless as soon as it appears to everyone. So the elite switches to quiet luxury or hidden wealth by wearing $800 cashmere baseball caps without logos, while the middle class tries to catch up by throwing away heavy gear with logos to buy a new sophisticated trend. Ben participates in the race against people with endless stamina, while he runs with a broken ankle. The irony is that, in an attempt to show his belonging to the rich class, Ben commits certain actions, spends too much or invests insufficiently, which guarantee that he will remain in the poor class. So, how does Ben break this spell? The solution is to completely abandon the status game. Ben needs to understand that in the 21st century, true status is freedom, not junk. A man driving a 10-year-old Toyota who has $1 million in a bank account and who may quit his job tomorrow has an infinitely higher status than a man driving a brand new Range Rover, which is 2 salaries away from bankruptcy. You separate your self-worth from your net worth. Ben needs to learn the philosophy of covert enrichment. The really rich people I know, the ones who have won this game, are often the ones you would pass by in a grocery store without even looking at them. They understand that wealth is something you don't see. Wealth is not about buying beautiful cars, not buying diamonds, not giving up first-class improvements. Wealth is financial assets that have not yet been transformed into what one sees. When you feel an irresistible urge to buy something worthwhile again, to buy an expensive thing just to be expensive, think about it and ask yourself, am I buying this for the good of the cause or to give a signal? If Ben was the last monkey on Earth, would he still want this? If the answer is no, then you are trapped. You're sacrificing your freedom to impress people who are most likely mired in their own debts. Thorstein Veblen taught us that we are monkeys obsessed with shiny objects, but we have the power to redefine this programming. We can give preference to formulation rather than consumption. We can be masters of our money, not slaves of our status. The most impressive signal Ben can send to the world is not the watch on your wrist. It's the calmness in your eyes. Please like this video if it made you rethink your next purchase. Follow Ben's adventures to learn more about how to hack the system, ignore the status game, and create real invisible wealth. See you in the next issue.